Good afternoon. I'm Felicia DePaula, Program Specialist with the New Mexico Economic Development Department. The Rural Efficient Business Program is a partnership between EDD, New Mexico State University, and the New Mexico Manufacturing Extension Partnership. The program strives to assist rural small businesses and agricultural producers in New Mexico to reduce energy consumption, increase profits, and explore ways to implement renewable energy systems. John Winscott is here with me today, Economic and Energy Diversification Coordinator with MNERD, and also joining us is Amanda Garcia, who is off camera, but is with the New Mexico Small Business Assistance Program that works closely with Sandia Labs and Los Alamos National Laboratories. So we are in Raton today. This is our first time in Northeast New Mexico, which is exciting, and we're here at High Country Meats, which is a family-owned and operated business that's been around for more than 25 years, offering quality meats and custom processing of beef, pork, and lamb. In 1994, High Country Meats was started by Lee and Alexis Dixon in Estancia, New Mexico, and they began processing beef, pork, and lamb for locals. High Country Meats is a USDA certified plant, also receiving the Rural Energy for America program funding that helped the company pay for energy efficient freezers. And they continue to make efforts to work towards a more energy efficient business. So we're joined today with Lee, Justin, and Emily. Thank you so much for joining us. And the cutest baby in the world off the camera, but hopefully will make an appearance at the end. I hope that I didn't butcher any of that, but please feel free to correct me if I did. But we can just jump into questions and get to learn a little bit more about your business. So I want to start off by saying that they just had their grand opening on Saturday of your, I don't know, how much
of the new retail space.
The retail space, which is awesome, with beautiful meat that we'll try to show you at the end of the interview. So congratulations on that, really exciting. But to get started, how did you get into this line of work, and what have been some significant changes over the last 25 years?
So in 94, New Mexico was having a terrible drought, and we raised cows. We raised show steers, and Alexis and I had just fed the last 3 years through drought, and we decided that we needed to do something. And I had a friend that owned a meat market in Estancia, and his dad leased it to me, and I told Alexis, we can do this and we won't have to have a real job. So we started this, and it just made its way into a real job. And that facility wasn't big enough, and this facility came available, and we just jumped at the chance to move up here.
So, because I'm ignorant to it, how far is Estancia from Raton? Was it a huge?
About 3 hours.
Okay, wow. So why Raton?
And the nice thing about where we were is a huge part of our business came out of the Las Vegas, Mora area. So we didn't have to just all of a sudden start with a new area. They came with us from Estancia all up here. So there's a huge clientele we have in that part of the world that have been with us for 25, 26 years.
Sure. And was the move pretty much, you found this location, this meatpacking facility, and it was just kind of like a perfect fit for you to transition to Raton?
This plant was for sale, perfect transition. It was probably 4 times, 5 times bigger than the facility we had. We were ready to upgrade and expand. Its biggest issue was it was in horrible disrepair. And it took a lot to get it into repair, and that's where we'll get into the efficiency of the compressors, because we bought a entire set of used compressors to fix the ones that were not working. So everything we had from that time forward until now have been pretty much used and rebuilt compressors.
Because this building, when you bought it, it was originally built in 1960.
1960, correct? January of 1960 by Joe Dennis.
So when you initially moved in, was there like a lot of maintenance to be done like right away before you could get started? Or
we put probably $10,000-$15,000 in, which was every last dollar we had to our name. So it took a lot, and then it's been every year. You know, with a building that is almost 60 years old, the building and I are the same age. So we both take a lot of repair and maintenance every year.
Well, I would have never guessed.
Yeah, this building looks outstanding. The work you guys have done is incredible.
Yeah.
So
we're in this whole part that we're in is an addition, correct? How new is the addition portion?
How new?
Yeah.
We moved in 2 months ago.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, you can smell the paint.
If you see the wall behind us with the sign on it, that was all the old plant. That was the entry to the old plant.
Okay. Wow.
Okay.
So beyond the retail portion, what do you do at this facility? What are
We do a lot of custom processing where people like you would bring us a beef, a pig, a lamb. We would slaughter it, process it, and send it right back to you.
Oh, okay.
The majority of what we do is still that.
Wow. So hunters, a lot of hunters, and
We don't do any game,
Oh,
all
okay.
domestic, all domestic.
Wow. So ranchers, everything like that. Okay.
Yep.
That is interesting.
And from what you said earlier, you kept your old sort of market base in the Estancia area, came up here and you've been expanding. I believe you've expanded into other states at this point too, right?
Probably a third of our business comes out of Colorado. We get a lot out of that text line, that Texas panhandle, the Oklahoma panhandle is a big part of our business. And as far north as Pueblo and down the Arkansas Valley.
So you did mention a little bit about some of the changes you've made, but how involved in that process was USDA? How closely did you work to get funding, and what made you recognize we need to make some changes?
You know, 3 years ago, I had some health issues and I had to stop processing for 3 weeks. And that's when the kids came home. Dustin was working up in Denver, and that's when the kids came back and helped us get the coolers cut out. And at the end of that, they said they wanted to come back, which thrilled us greatly. All of this would not be here if it wasn't for them. They're the driving force in this expansion. And so we started that process. USDA's been helpful. The new USDA, when they came home, we were not USDA inspected. They just only inspected us for sanitation. And so when the kids came home, they said, we want to start to do a retail counter, to do co-packer label. If you want to sell retail, you have to have the USDA stamp on it. So Emily and Dustin have been very instrumental in getting all of that back. And USDA, the new USDA has been outstanding. They have been very helpful, and they've been really helped in the creating of all of this.
And 3 years ago, summer used to be slow time. This plant would run 50% capacity. It would just, everything would really slow down. So that's where we decided to bring the USDA in to drum up that extra business on the retail counter, get people that wanted beefs processed under USDA so they could sell them themselves. There's a lot of ranchers were very interested in that, and they really tried to push that. They just could never come to us, their closest plant. Fast forward a year from that, COVID happens, and it's been crazy ever since then. It's the gas pedal's been down, and we haven't looked back. We're booked out through the end of 23, and so it was a way to drum up more business, but it really prepared us, pre-pandemic, to be prepared to take on a lot of extra business.
So with that kind of volume, since you're kind of booked out for like the next year, do you anticipate maybe expanding the processing end of this facility and kind of increasing the amount of volume that you're able to handle?
We have discussed it. So the three things a plant mainly needs is the facility, the equipment, and the people. Where we are, the people is the hardest piece to put into motion. From when me and Emily first came back, there's only one person other than mom and dad that works here that worked then. So we've hired many, many people. We've done a lot of training. Past couple of years, it's just been a lot of training.
We were also paper wrapping at that point, so it was really hard to find, someone who would stay long enough for, us to teach them properly how to wrap.
Yeah.
But now we've had to switch over to the roll stock machine, which is why now everything is in the clear packaging. It's more efficient, it takes less people to run. And so it's a little bit easier.
That's amazing.
Wow. It's baffling because it's like you see all these other businesses who have struggled during COVID, and to hear such a success story is really nice, especially in a rural area. So I feel like that brings some light and positivity and hope to some businesses who, may be scared to get into some energy efficiency changes because they're already struggling to just stay afloat after COVID. So
We've been so fortunate through all of this.
that's great. That is really great and hopeful.
And before this interview, we kind of got toured around and got to see some of the compressors and evaporators that you all had put in. And I think it would be interesting. Would it be possible for you to kind of go through that process of kind of working something out with USDA to get the funding for that, kind of picking out a contractor, getting it installed, what happens with old equipment, that kind of thing?
So we had, like I said, when we first came here, we had a lot of used equipment. And it was a battle at the start. I mean, moving to a new area, starting a new plant with a new clientele. So we had a lot of used equipment. A lot of that equipment used the old Freons. We still had one unit that used the R12 that has not been used in a decade or more. We had a lot of 409, R22, the older Freons, and they were units that just ran. The evaporators that we had in the two main coolers were put in by Joe in 1960. And they were just, the efficiency of it was never that great, but they kept things cold and we kept moving along. When this grant came available, we had all the rest of the expansion in, we were buying new equipment, so it just made sense for us to upgrade all of those, get into the same Freons in the new units. And it's just, and we haven't had them in long enough to know their efficiency. They've only been online a couple of months, and it takes our electric bills drag by a few months anyway. So we just really don't know yet, but just the running of them is just, you can tell they're more efficient by how much they're off. The old units just ran all the time. These units will run, they'll cool, they'll turn off, they'll do it exactly what we expect them to do.
So are there any other expansions in the horizon, solar, or any ideas like that you're hoping?
We would love, and I'll let Dustin talk more about that, but we would love to move into some solar.
Yeah, and when me and Emily first moved back and we started updating different spaces, the first thing we did was upgrade all the fluorescent lighting to LED lighting. It was just kind of something that made sense, and it was a very small step we took. And then, like he was saying, when we started into the more major expansion, is when we saw the grant, got really focused on the Freons. But I've always been very interested in the solar power and what it can do on an industrial scale. And Sioux Carne has a plant in Mexico that runs 100% on solar. So it is possible on a very large scale. What it would take, where we would put it, I'm not sure. We've kicked around a lot of ideas, but it is something we're definitely interested in.
And is that something you would consider utilizing the REAP grant funding for again, or is this something you would maybe do out of pocket?
We would definitely see utilizing that grant again.
Yeah. Awesome.
And where did you get the idea to do the LED lighting and sort of some of these, I guess, energy efficient techniques that you've already done? Was that kind of just you bringing experience from, your previous jobs, or how did you do that?
When we remodeled every house I've ever lived in, and in the last one we did, we went in with a lot of LED lighting. It was still fairly new. Lowe's and Home Depot were just carrying, models that weren't just light bulbs that you could put in full fixtures. And I just loved how they worked. I loved how easy they were. The efficiency was great. So when we came here, we had the very old fluorescent lights with the 8-foot bulbs, which is a management nightmare just to dispose of. I just started Googling, and we just started ordering LED lights. And one would go out, and we'd replace it with an LED, just one at a time.
We were ahead of the game. It's like, I haven't seen a lot of manufacturing companies of this nature moving towards this.
And I kind of always ask in these interviews, because we interview so many different types of businesses, but is there like working group of meat packing plants that kind of speak with each other to share ideas on how to become more efficient or kind of grow your business that you can communicate with and get ideas from? Or how does,
We are part of an organization called AMP,
American Association of Meat Processors.
That's
okay.
it. And it's a lot of processors like us.
Okay.
There's some organizations for the larger processors, but our conversations don't relate to them as well. So this organization, it's packers like us. There's a convention every year. We go and talk. And, when you're sitting around with a bunch of other meat packers drinking some beer, there's no telling where the conversation will go. You'll go from making sausage to what are you doing with your facility maintenance? So, yeah, it's a lot of conversations come up like that. What do you do about refrigeration? Do you have a refrigeration guy? We're fortunate enough Dad has his refrigeration license. We do some of our own work in-house. So, yeah, absolutely.
So everybody's going to start coming to you guys for all
Possibly.
I see.
The USDA poster child.
Exactly.
Well, Emily, do you want to tell and share with us a little bit about what you've done and the concept of what you've implemented in the last few months?
Just, how the whole retail got started when Dustin and I came back, it was just like, hey, how about I'll start with the green chili sausage is really where it all started. So they had been making this green chili sausage, and it was like this secret sausage, and you had to know about it to order it from them, and they would only make it for certain people.
It's like a secret menu
It
item.
was very secret.
Secret in and out.
Yeah. So then we're like, what if we start offering this in our custom animals? No, we did retail first, didn't we? Was it retail? And then we started doing custom. Anyway, so came to be that let's start offering this to the public. See if they like it. And so we just had our regular sausage, which is our high country sausage, just a breakfast sausage. And then our green chili sausage, and then we do 2X. So it's just double the green chili. So that's where the retail started was with those three products. And then it was growing because we were like, well, if someone's going to get half a beef, quarter of beef, whole beef, whatever. If they just want a few pork items, to take with them, then we have those few items for them to take with them, when they pick up their beef also. And then it's just growing.
We started with this, I don't know if you can see our little 3-door freezer back here in the corner of an office, and that was our entire retail
Wow.
account.
Yeah.
And you had a great turnout, right? Is what you
Yep.
shared.
Yeah, and it's even through the construction and through the pandemic, we were selling out of the back door here on the side. You just drove up and you called us and you're like, I'm here and this is what I want. And then we would just bring it out.
We had to keep it going.
And the sales were amazing that people just flowed through here.
Yeah.
So, and we really saw that support last Saturday in the grand opening. We had so many people here and they were so excited about the new display because it's so nice that we can display everything now. Before in the little freezer, there's no place you could put a tomahawk steak or a brisket.
Yeah.
They're too big. You can't display them. But now people can come in and they see it and their mouth waters and they want it.
Yeah.
And it's great.
I'm like gonna spend my paycheck.
How many different items are you selling right now? It's got, I don't know, over 100?
Yes.
I honestly have no idea. We added
Probably about 130.
4 or 5 items over the weekend just for the grand opening.
Wow.
So, yes.
Yeah.
When we started 2 years ago with 6 items.
Amazing. All from the hidden item on the menu. That's awesome.
Gosh, well, it shows that bringing in, different innovation and ideas, different generations, you can really just grow a business immensely.
Mhm.
So it's really cool to see.
Yep.
Really.
We started this after I went down with my deal, and then the kids came in, and I told my wife, and I said, I'm just gonna let those kids have some rope. I guess we'll see if they hang us or not. We're going to let them have some reign here, and we're gonna let them kind of push along. And there's been times that Alexis and I look at each other and think, I don't know what the hell they're thinking, but then it follows through, and we just let them have some lead, and then it's turned into all of this.
Yeah. You guys have made it. So are there plans to expand? Up north? by
Different
chance? Or
locations,
central?
We don't have any to change locations right now. I mean, we can just work ourselves to death if we want to. And we try to still, I have an entire set of grandkids, and I don't plan to spend every day here. For the last 2 or 3 years, I've been here 12 hours a day, and I would like to spend more time with the grandkids. And we have plans that we've talked about for expanding coolers. We fix things in reverse order here. We had to add more freezer space. We had to add more processing space, and then you add more cooler space. You have to fix in that order. You can't just add cooler space and not have a place to process or freeze it. So the plans are there. We'll just see how far we go with it.
And the people, like I mentioned, you almost need to have too much manpower to be able to expand. Because if you expand and you can't process, it goes to waste. I mean, we're working with a perishable product. As soon as we receive that animal, the time starts on when it can be processed and be a good product to go back to the customer.
As far as expansion into maybe not a facility of your own, but into co-ops or local grocery stores around New Mexico, is that something that has been thought of, or is that just too much work?
We'll let Emily talk about that.
So there's Mountain Pass Market here in town. They have a little store there. They have a lot of different items in gelato and some meats and stuff like that. But they purchased some of the meats from us, and so our meat is in their store already. And it's been great. I mean, she keeps coming back, so that's a good
And we
thing.
have some, it's in Colorado.
We have it in Colorado at Farmhouse Market up in Yuma, Colorado. And then some of our products are in Gate City. The brewery here, there's a kitchen there, and so they have some of our products that they sell. And then we are at Ice House here in town as well, the barbecue restaurant. They have the green chili brat. But yeah, so we're
There's
in
a
and
restaurant,
around.
Sarah Matthews Restaurant in Las
Yes,
Vegas.
in Las Vegas, the
Plaza.
and Cimarron Mercantile in Cimarron. They buy the chorizo for their breakfast burritos. So we're
We're always
trying.
entertaining the option, especially when people approach us. When we were under construction, capacity was really tough. We had no place to put a lot of these products. Now that we're done with construction, finally, we're getting the production rolling a little faster. We've entertained the idea. We have a few more restaurants that have inquired about stuff, mostly hamburger. And then me and Emily have always thought, how good like a small storefront would be. In a Santa Fe or Albuquerque sort of setting where there's more of a population. And that's one limiting factor to the retail is population here. We live in a fairly low populous area. So people do come from quite a ways to shop here.
Yeah. So do you raise the cattle yourselves, or are you purchasing?
We raise some. We raise a small amount of cattle, but we purchase some locally. And then some of this comes a box product we get shipped in.
Age, and then we cut it.
So like all the beef products get aged 45 days before we cut them. And like sausage making, there's no way we could kill enough hogs to produce the amount of sausage we make. And it's just some of the products are hard. One section of this freezer on the end here is all locally raised beef. All the hamburgers locally raised. So we're going to start stepping more local animal production into the case.
Slaughter spots are hard to find. We even own the market, and we have a tough time getting
Can't get our own.
Wow. What makes it so difficult?
just the number of people that want to process.
Well, Lee, you had mentioned something really interesting right now. I was on a call yesterday about a new initiative coming out of the governor's office involving hunger and composting and things like that. So if you could tell us a little bit more about your composting efforts.
So for probably 15, 18 years ago, they shut our landfill down. And we took all of our offal and our bones and guts and whatnot to the landfill. When they shut the landfill down, we had to find a new place to go with it. Our closest landfill that took special waste was down in Albuquerque, which is, we couldn't haul that far. We're so remote that all of the dog food places refuse to come get our product because we're so far away.
Yeah.
So the city of Raton, Orly, Ashley, Mark at Solid Waste Bureau came up, and the three of us groups came together and decided we'd start composting. So we have a joint venture with the city of Raton, supported by Solid Waste, and we have composted everything for the last 15 years. Everything that comes out of this plant as a byproduct gets composted with the city of Raton, and then they use it for landfill cover to revegetate, and they can use it for any of the compost for anything they need throughout the city. And it's been an absolutely great relationship.
So where would is that composting site on location here, or is that on
It
the
is
city of
at the landfill.
Okay.
It is at the landfill. And what we do, the city provides all the mulch. We own all the equipment. We pay the city to take the compost out there, the offal, and then they get all the product.
How long is the process? I mean, from the time that you transport it here to their.
We use static piles, so we're looking at 6 to 8 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now I see that you're doing dog food as well.
Yes.
Something we just started.
Yeah.
All right. Everyone's getting
Explain
treats.
kind of.
So the dog food, we take the bone dust out of the bandsaw at the end of the day. So it's mostly fat and calcium because it's bone dust. And we mix that with liver. There's a huge amount of vitamins in liver. Some of the beef trimmings that aren't so suitable to go into the human product. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just not as pretty. Little bits we trim off the carcasses. And then we put in spinach and carrots and beef hearts. And we grind that all up into dog food. And we first started feeding it to our dogs to make sure we wouldn't have any bad reactions. And they just loved it. And people have loved it. So since then we've started smoking some leg bones. And then there's some little medallion bones in there. And people have really been interested in that.
That's a whole market in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously.
You're gonna have to have more grandbabies.
I'm all for that.
Well, did you have any other questions, John?
No, I'm just astonished at how much you guys have going on and how you keep track of it all.
Yeah. Oh,
Well,
we
it's
did
incredible.
forget to mention, but maybe interesting to share is you had mentioned something about being in the middle of the EBT process, which is.
We are in the middle. That our USDA inspector came from Baltimore, and he has been on us the entire time. And he says, there is a need for this. You need to start getting this in, getting that group of people in here. And he just, we never thought about that really through all of this, but he really pushed us to start looking at that portion of our community. And so we just started the process, and we're somewhere in the middle of it. I don't know if we're half or 3/4 the way through, but it's a process that we're trying to get done.
Yeah, we're just waiting on approval, and not sure what happens. Once
Hopefully
we're
get it
approved,
going.
then we can start accepting.
Oh, that's amazing. So in final, if there was another business that was hesitant to get started with this, scared, what would be your advice for first steps, for successes, addressing fears?
My biggest part was in so much of the grants and things like that, you think to yourself, people like us never get those kind of grants. They're not available to us. They say they're available, but you never think that they really are. And then the paperwork, and you go through a lot of the process, and then you don't get it. And then through the COVID deal, we have applied, and we just kept not getting it. And then Alexis says, this is one I really think. And our local person,
Carlos.
yes, he and Alexis work really closely together, and he goes, this fits you guys. I believe that this will work. And he was really helpful with that and making us believe that we could get that it was worth our time and effort. And it was.
He's amazing.
And it was.
Awesome. Dustin or Emily, any closing thoughts, words of advice?
Come by High Country Meats and see us.
Yeah. We're going to need
If the last 3 years has told this community anything, just keep watching, because you don't know what's coming around the bend.
Yeah.
We did the same thing for 20 some years, and then all of a sudden it's just been, it seems like every month there's something new and something different.
Yeah, we now have a Facebook, we have Instagram, we take debit and credit cards. And for the longest time, that was not a thing.
Yeah.
None of those were a thing for 20 some years. And Emily has been great with that.
Yeah.
And she still has to show me things on Facebook and
Yeah,
whatnot. But
yeah,
she's,
the great marketing strategist, because he's like, John is like, is it their grand opening that we're going to? And I was like, I don't think so. They've been open 25 years. And then Mark Roper, of course, is like, they had a great grand opening, bring me sausage back and stuff. So it's really exciting what you're doing, and clearly the word is getting out there. So hats off to you. Well, thank you so much for letting us crash your lunch break and join you. It's like really cool to see everything in the back. And it wouldn't be unsanitary to take our computers back there to show everything. That was a really cool experience. But thank you again, Emily, Dustin, Lee, Alexis in the back who's babysitting, and help put this all together. Thank you for all the information. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to email me, and I will be sure to pass them on to the Dixon family. Again, a quick thank you to our partners at NMMEP, NMSBA. Thank you for joining us today, and NMSU. For any no-cost energy assessments, reach out to me or Jalal Rastafari, and we will set you up with an appointment. Any manufacturing partnerships that are looking for no-cost energy assessments, we'll set you up with Jennifer Sinsabot. So again, thank you so much, and I hope everybody has a good day. Please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
great. Thanks.